Hello and welcome to another Overpaid Over the Bar with me, Anthony, looking back this week at game week 32 and forward to game week 33. And this is where it all gets very interesting because game week 33 is the major double game week of the season with four matches extra, meaning eight clubs doubling. What were your chip strategy decisions last week? Let's have a look at what mine were and what you might want to be thinking about for this week and next week. Obviously, you've already made your big decisions, probably, but it's quite interesting the way it's unfolding because we don't really know which system, which choices would have been the best. I can tell you that my game week was not amazing, but I must say I was quite relieved in many ways because I didn't have the two players that really went off for the people who played the wild card, which were Bowen and Nico O'Reilly. And if you had both of those players, you must have had a green arrow, I think. I didn't, but I did have Thiago, who not everyone has. And then I also got some points off Mo Salah. Now, I was talking about selling Mo Salah, and I went to try and sell him. And because I was a bit confused, I was away on holiday. I thought I could buy another Manchester United attacker, Cunha, but I forgot I had Dallo. So I had three Manchester United players already. Very basic error. And then I thought, well, who can I get instead? And I looked around. I just thought, oh, well, maybe Salah's going to play because, if Slot doesn't play him now, it's going to turn into a really personal thing. So I think he might start. So I just left it there and hoped. And actually, he played very well. Not only did he score a goal, but he also was unlucky to get an assist or two in that game. However, he didn't start in the Champions League this week in Liverpool's defeat against PSG, where they played much better than they have done, but were unfortunate to lose again at home. Therefore, they're out of the Champions League. Only the what's it called? That's right, the Premier League to play for now. And I got 8 points off Mo Salah, so that's not too bad. Apart from that, Alderete pulled in 8 points. I think he must have, yes, he got Defcons at home to Spurs. And I got some points off Darlow in goal against Manchester United for his extra saves. So not a bad game week, I have to say. And my ranks dropped to 15,000, which, given that I've got three chips yet to play, that's got to be good, hasn't it? I've just got to I've just got to not mess up from now on to keep a 20K within a 20K rank. And hopefully, I can reach a four-digit rank at the end of the season. My dream, I've never done it before. Just finished outside the top 10K a few times. Well, once just outside and a few times in the top 50K. But I hope this season I can reach the top 10K. That is my dream. I'm not going to be disappointed if I don't. It's still going to have been a really good season. So that's the most important thing with FPL, I think, is not to, you know, whatever you do, you do. It's not a big deal, is it, to anyone except you, what you do in your FPL team, really? Right. So this is the Overpaid Over the Bar team league for people watching. I know lots of people in the league watch, so this is always here as a second part of the video, just to go through who did really well. Well, Freddie crept up on me a bit here. Look at this. He's only 19 points behind me at the top, so he's still got definitely a big shout of taking the overpaid crown for 25-26. Apart from that, a big score for Bunkyo Tomohiro Nakayama. Tomo, he's a friend of mine from Japan who I've lost touch with. I was trying to get back in touch with him. The only way I can find him was on LinkedIn, and he hasn't responded to that. So anybody out there in Japan, of my 14 watchers, if you know Tomohiro Nakayama, tell him I'm trying to get in touch with him because I want to interview him for one of these videos. Okay, very good score from Matty White, 73. I think he had a couple of players like Gay that a lot of people don't have. These were really good players to have this week. Craig got 70, very good score in the top 10 there. And with a shout of going higher before the end of the season, Piers still going pretty strong. Right. Anybody further down the league? High score, not doesn't look like it. Let's look at this double game week. Tasty, tasty, tasty. Okay, so you've got what's that? 14 fixtures. and they'll start on Saturday at 12:30 with Brentford against Fulham, and they'll finish on Wednesday with two 8 o'clock kickoffs on the 22nd. Bournemouth, Leeds, and Burnley, Manchester City. Now, if Manchester City weren't having a double game week and were only playing Burnley away, people would be piling on Manchester City, no doubt. But the fact they've got a double game week, albeit including a home fixture against Arsenal, I mean, I say that, but the way Arsenal are playing and the way Manchester City are playing, I don't think anyone's tipping Arsenal to win this. I think the best that Arsenal fans might be hoping for is a draw at this point, which is not out of the question, given how well they can defend. So, obviously, three Manchester City players. Which ones? Right. I'm going to give my opinion, and I think there's a big choice here. You could even, if you're on a free hit, you could even go Donnarumma in goal. If you got the cash for it. At the back, it's either Nunes or Mark Gay. Now, this is dependent on whether O'Reilly is declared fit. If it's very, very extremely likely, or even confirmed that Nico O'Reilly is fit, it's a no. He is a no-brainer. He absolutely slapped a load of points again in the last game week. Currently one of the best picks in the game. Unfortunately, I got rid of him after I had him for a while, so I haven't benefited recently. But if he's going to be fit, I'll have him. Excuse me. I'll have him for this free hit that I'm going to play on this double game week. So O'Reilly's the best choice. Gay and Nunes also very good. By the way, it's not Nunez because he's not Spanish. He's not a Spanish speaker. It's Nunes, if you want to pronounce his name properly. Matheus Nunes at right back for Manchester City. So in midfield for Manchester City, there's a couple of choices, which is obvious, which are Semenyo and Cherki. Now, Cherki is the current, flavor of the month. He really is playing some beautiful football. His touch is amazing. His vision is amazing. He's a beautiful football player. If you want to go Cherki, it really is gonna provide you with some great moments because he's more fun to own than say Gay, but Gay might well outscore him because he'll definitely play twice, which Cherki might not, and he'll probably get a clean sheet against Burnley. So he guaranteed a kind of 8 point floor for Gay, I'd say 7 or 8. Semenyo's been a bit quiet recently, and his position's changed a bit, so he's playing a little bit deeper and wider than he had been. Excuse me. So I'm sorry about that. I can't. I don't have time to record these and edit these, so you just have to put up with that. I do understand if you want to just switch off at that point. So, um, Semenyo's a good choice, I think. I don't think there's an argument against him that's that great. I think he will start both games because Pep's trying to win all the games. I do think Manchester City will get a result against Arsenal, therefore they're still in the title race. I think Semenyo will start both games. I think there's a very good chance Cherki will. So if you want to go for either or both of those, great. Up front, there's no discussion. Haaland is obviously not only the best striker to choose this week, but he's a no-brainer captain, in my opinion. You might want to be clever and go for someone else, like Cole Palmer at Chelsea, for example, who's got a double game week. But I think, given the problems Palmer's had this season, not only with form, but also with fitness, I think Haaland is an absolute no-brainer. Okay, so that's Manchester City, first of all. Then let's go to Chelsea, who have Manchester United at home and Brighton away. Manchester United put it in a really weak performance at home to Leeds on Monday. I don't know if you saw that, but I did. And oh dear, they suddenly don't look like the prospect they were. But it may be just that they were a bit out of sorts after having 2 weeks off, or 3, was it? I don't know. So yeah, long time. People were making that excuse, and of course Leeds had that cup tie, so they weren't as rusty. But then someone else said, "Well, what about Bournemouth? They had the same gap and they played really well." So it's not a great excuse, is it? Let's let's say Chelsea have a very good chance of scoring against Manchester United at home. I do actually think that because Chelsea are so unreliable defensively, that Manchester United could well score in this game. And if you have Bruno Fernandes, if you don't have a free hit, if you have Bruno Fernandes in your team, I wouldn't worry about this. Because he's not double game weeking, I won't be having him. I'm on a free hit, and I'm only playing double game week because I'm not playing Bruno Fernandes. I'm not playing Gabriel. I'm only playing players that play twice. But if you have Bruno, there's no need to worry about that. I think he could well get something in this match. Chelsea are very unreliable defensively. So, yeah, Bruno's a good pick. Right. Now, the next one is Bournemouth. Now, Bournemouth have two DEFCON heroes in defense in Hill and Senesi. And if you're looking to fill up your free hit team, then two Bournemouth defenders might be worth having. Either of them. I've had Truffert for a long time, and actually, he not only gets DEFCONs occasionally, he also gets assists. So Truffaut's not a bad pick. I'm not sure whether I'm going to hold on to him. As I've got the free hit, I might play one of the other two, or even both of them. I'm still deciding that. But I think a Bournemouth defender, at least one, is kind of essential if you're on a free hit. Very good idea, anyway. Leeds are on really good form. I've said before, they're a decent team. They've got Wolves at home and Bournemouth away. Now, these are good fixtures. I mean, especially the Wolves at home one. And I do think from Leeds, you can have a defender. You might have two. You might have a midfield player and you might have a striker. They're all really good prices, of course. So you're looking at Calvert-Lewin up front. At the back, you're looking at players like Strike. You're looking at in midfield. Also, Goodmanson at the back is a very good pick. In midfield, there are picks as well. I'll look at those in a minute because I've forgotten the Leeds players. But I think one, two, or three Leeds players, fantastic. Then you've got Brighton. I think honestly, for me, the best picks for Brighton are defenders. If you're on the free hit, there's so many other attackers and midfield players, forwards and midfield players that you can play instead of Brighton players who have Chelsea at home and Spurs away. Now, obviously, Spurs away looks like a very good fixture, but Spurs are really revved up, or they should be really revved up to have a go at Brighton at home. It's kind of their last chance. If they don't win that game, I think they can just say goodbye because West Ham and Forest are decent teams now. Spurs are not. So I think if they don't win that Brighton fixture or at least get a draw, then I think we can just wave goodbye to them as a Premier League team. I'm not laughing about that. I know everyone else is. I don't care. Um, so yeah, Brighton players, who to go for? We've got Van Heck in defence. You've got the keeper, Verbruggen. You've got possibly Danny Welbeck up front, and whether he starts two games in, what's that, 4 days? Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. I doubt he'll start two games, but he's going to get a lot of minutes in those two games, so you might want to start him. I think the same argument with Brighton is with Bournemouth, that you wouldn't go for attacking players, you'd probably go for defensive players. However, Bournemouth do have Tavernier that everyone seems to love, but I don't get that myself. But I may be proved wrong in this double game week. So Chelsea finally have Manchester United at home and Brighton away. I didn't talk about their players. I talked about their fixtures. If you're looking at Chelsea, you can go for a defender if you really want to. I'm not going to. I don't like their defense. I'm going to go for three Chelsea attackers. So let's have a look now at the team I've picked at the moment for free hit. Now, honestly, this may not end up being my team because I'm still messing around with it. But this is what I have at the moment. I have two Brighton defenders, Verbruggen and Van Heck. I've got Strike for Leeds at the back and Calvert-Lewin up front. But I've also got three Chelsea and three Manchester City players in midfield and attack, because I think they could score some goals in these two fixtures. And I do see these six players as pretty good bets to start both games. Enzo's been out of the team, but he is kind of essential in that Chelsea team. I do think he'll get plenty of minutes, and I do think he'll get some returns of some sort. I think he'll get at least one return, attacking return. Palmer, could blank, of course, but he could really go off. You never know. I mean, he hasn't done it much this season, but I think not having him would be foolish. I've got Semenyo and Cherky and Haaland. Now, I might at the last minute switch to O'Reilly if I found out O'Reilly's fit. And in that case, I would go O'Reilly, Cherky, no, Semenyo and Haaland. I wouldn't have Cherky, I'd have O'Reilly if O'Reilly's fit. Um, I've got Truefair at the minute. I think I'm going to switch to Hill or Senesi. There are other things I could do here. Plenty of other things I could do. So it's certainly not set in stone, but that's the way I'm set up at the moment. Now, people who played their wild card last week will play their bench boost this week if they still have it. And that could bring in a lot of points. So people playing bench boost this week, everyone else is very much in damage limitation mode mentality. And when I should be looking forward to this free hit, licking my lips. But actually, I'm really worried that I will lose out by, say, 20 points to bench boosters. It could be that much. It could easily be that much because, of course, with a bench boost, you get a wider selection of players, not just more players, but you get the possibility of a big return on your bench that other people don't have because you're just casting your net wider. So I'm not saying looking back I would do things differently because I'm really looking forward to game week 35 and having that double wild card in game week 35. I'm excited about that. My only problem, my big problem here with this strategy is that I had last week. If you look at the players that are already in my squad before I did the free hit, I've got Timber, Ekatike, and no goalkeeper. So these two players might not be fit. Well, Ekatike looks like he definitely won't be fit for game week 34. Timber maybe, and I have to sign a goalkeeper. I'm going to have to take at least one, probably two hits next week. Well, definitely two hits next week if I want 11 players. So it's not looking fantastic for me at the minute. But this is my setup for game week 33. Now you can comment all you want on whether this is right or not. Maybe you've got a better idea than me. I've also got considering players like on the bench here. I've got James Justin, Pascal Gross. I'm looking at Verbruggen in goal, but Dubravka's also there. He has two fixtures. Um, Let me know if you think that's rubbish. I'm not, as I say, I'm not super excited about this, but it may, you may turn out that I don't really lose out that much on people who bench boost. But do remember that there are people who've played chips. If you're playing a chip like a free hit or a bench boost this week, you're naturally going to get a rank rise probably, because there's a few people out there who won't be able to. If you check on Live Rank FPL, if you check that website, you can find out that maybe 20% of people won't have a chip to play around you. Well, in that case, you'll go up 20% in terms of the rank if you get any kind of return from your chip. So that's the way I'm looking at it, is that I can't possibly suffer that much this week in terms of my overall rank. Okay, so this is the blank for 34. Now, of course, the chip strategy of double game week in 32, if you played that, will lead you then to use the free hit in 34, which is looking like a very sound strategy. In retrospect, it's probably better than the one I chose, but I'm still not sure whether I'd go back and do it differently because I'm just really looking forward to game week 35 and being able to pick and choose what players are gonna help me in the run in. There will be one more double game week before the end of the season, so that will also be easy to be accommodated in my squad. However, it's a little bit tricky because it will involve Crystal Palace, and Crystal Palace look like they're through to the semi-finals of the Europa Conference League, and they probably will be concentrating on that by that time. So it may well be that they will rotate. They don't rotate much, Palace, but it could be that they will rotate before the end of the season and make that double game week a little bit more tricky than it could be. But of course, there are many other fixtures to think about, not just that double. So having the luxury of choosing all the players I want in 35 should give me an advantage over players that don't managers that don't have a wild card to play. Right. Okay. I'm going to leave it there for today. Thank you so much for watching. This is Anthony saying good luck. I hope your team does well this week, and I hope your fantasy team does well as well. Take care. Bye bye.